Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's fitness programs, and I've been in business since 1994. Today is another special day where I have a guest, and today's guest is Dr. Gary Frick, a psychiatrist. How you doing, Gary?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Even better now that you're here to be interviewed. We've been setting this up for maybe a couple months, and now that we're able to do it, it should be a lot of fun.
Yes. Finally, we were able to do it. Yeah.
All right. So, Gary, for our listeners out there, why don't we start with a little bit of your own personal routine of fitness? So, what made you seek me out as a trainer? So, it's probably been, 6 or 7 years now. So why did you want to improve your fitness?
Well, interesting. I've always been a bit of a runner. Throughout my 20s, I was an athlete when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
I won almost all my track meets.
So you ran track in college?
Yes, I ran the 400. And
nice.
I played a lot of baseball and soccer too. And I continued to lift throughout my 20s, or through most of them. And running, I did up until 50 years old.
Okay.
Mainly a combination of jogging and walking. I used to love putting on headphones and listening to music, jogging and walking. And then when I was 50, I had back problems, sciatica. From the research I was doing, I was like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to recover from this? And then I saw a great chiropractor, Dr. Chris Tatalovic in Daytona Beach.
Yep, we refer to him.
He did a great job on me. Wow. And I even asked him, am I ever going to go into remission? He goes, oh, yeah. And it's been actually almost 8 years.
So you went from chiropractic to me, basically.
Chiropractor to physical therapy.
Okay.
The next step was, he told me his goal was to get me doing physical therapy every day so I don't need him anymore.
Right.
So I figured, why not go to a physical therapist to show me the exercises? And then I had a follow-up with Dr. T, and he gave me your number.
Right.
He said you were the best in the area, which is ridiculously true.
Well, thank you.
And then I saw you. And I saw you for the first time, and I showed you all my stretches, and you went over stretches with me too. And then, man, I could barely do anything as far as lifting. And here I am 8 years later. I still stretch every day. It's not hard to do. You just do it when you're watching television instead of just sitting there.
It's not hard for you. I think, I can speak for Gary here. He's a person that if you give him homework, he's going to do it. He might be in that minority because most people don't. So what makes it easy for you? So it is easy for you. It's not easy for everybody. I mean, it should be easy for everybody, but what makes it easy for you to do all your homework? Now it's a combination of stretches and some strength training, but what makes it easy for you to do what you're supposed to do?
Wow, you're hitting on an important issue. Is motivation itself a gift to a point? Interestingly, as a physical trainer, I know it's your job to say, everybody, you all can do it, so do it, right?
Right.
Are there certain advantages? One of the things I think we're finding more and more is certain things are more genetic than we realize. For example, on one hand, obesity, if you have the genes for obesity, then you're at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
That does not mean that you have to be obese.
Correct.
It just means you're at a disadvantage.
Right.
And in my case, I was kind of a hyper kid, even when I was 4 or 5 years old. And perhaps that helps motivate me to work out and do my homework more than it does other people. This doesn't mean that everybody listening right now who's physically capable of doing it can't do the same thing I can. It just means they have to realize maybe they have to work a little harder.
So do you think when you were saying genetically Do you think it's more genetically that you are geared to be more hyper, or do you think it's more genetic that you have more motivation?
Well, both. Even school. To me, studying did not come that hard. I got into med school. Um, to a point, I felt that motivation when I was in college was a gift.
Okay.
It was not as hard to motivate me to study than it was other people.
But I wonder if that's a gift. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, because you're a psychiatrist, so you know a lot about the brain, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if motivation is genetic, or was there something in you that you learned growing up to make you more motivated? Because you are motivated.
I think, okay, whether I say genetic or a gift, that pretty much means the same thing.
Okay.
It means, is it nature or nurture?
Right.
Yeah, nurture. My parents greatly valued education. My mother was an immigrant from Estonia.
Okay.
And for those of you who know anything about Estonia, it was a republic of Russia, just south of Finland. In fact, the Finns and the Estonians can understand each other. Their languages are so similar. But Estonians greatly value education. And there was that factor. But also, I think I had a bit of an advantage, just nature-wise. Some people, I think, can't sit down and study for a few hours.
So I think maybe you're saying your ability to, well, on one hand, you have an ability to keep moving, but then on another hand, you have the ability to sit down and study for a long enough period of time. So you can get very focused.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I would love to learn that it has nothing to do with nature, that I'm just a highly motivated person with a good attitude.
Right.
If that's the direction we want to go here, I'm all for it.
I don't know if that's the case, though. Like, I think you're definitely highly motivated. Like, you're one of the few, and it is a minority. So it's definitely, whether it's nature or nurture, I think it's a gift, because, it's a gift for us, too, because we want to motivate people. And as you know, you can't motivate somebody else. So we'll tell somebody to do homework, and at least 50% of the time, they're going to say they didn't do it for whatever reason. We have to pull back the homework sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's been times I'll say, okay, don't do that anymore because you're wearing yourself out. So you're definitely highly motivated. Like, we don't need to motivate you at all. You're very, to an extent, you're partially extrinsically motivated, only in the sense that you like competition, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to do your work no matter what. And not everybody does. So, so that's a good thing. Do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I do have something to add. Logical thinking is a factor here, too.
Okay.
And we're talking about, and this baffles my wife sometimes too,
right?
And my relatives. They'll see me stretching out when I'm watching TV. Mm-hmm. I try not to do it in such a way that it's socially inappropriate. Well, the funny thing is, if I'm at an airport, I will stretch like crazy, right? Knowing that these people are never going to see me again, so I don't care.
So who cares what they think?
And but if I'm in a public place where I live, Daytona, I'm less likely to stretch in public. There are certain stretches you do in public that don't look weird, and then there are others that, like if your hands are high up in the air and you're doing those type of stretches, then that could look kind of strange.
But what's funny? Well, you're right. So basically, I'm picking up on what you're saying. You're saying, like, logically, why not stretch when you have nothing else to do? And if you're at an airport, sometimes Ellen and I, when we travel, we'll do laps in the airport to get steps in and stuff because we hate to sit around. And you're saying basically you're going to do your stretches in the airport. And we could even go so far to say, what really would be wrong with people doing calisthenics in an airport, right?
It should be encouraged. We could start a trend.
Right, because you're right. make use of time. And so many people get so worried about like what's appropriate or not. But it's like, wouldn't it be better to be sitting there doing push-ups in your own corner than it would be to blocking the bathroom entranceway by yammering at somebody on their phone?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So I think I'm picking up on what you're saying.
Actually, you definitely are. So,
right.
yeah. Social norms
are weird sometimes.
So one, maybe not funny, but ironic thing is last time I was at the airport. I got to remind myself when the airplane is going to Daytona sometimes. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do stretches. No, because everybody on that plane, half of the people there probably live in Daytona.
Oh, that's a good point. But then again, maybe they see Dr. Frick, leaving from, say, LaGuardia to Florida or something. So, maybe they see him at LaGuardia doing stretches and then maybe air squats. But reality is, what would be wrong with that? I mean,
actually, now, you know what? Now that we're talking this through, wow, you should be a therapist here. Now that I'm talking this through, it seems even less eccentric than I had thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, so the reality is your level of motivation has really, really paid off because, so for the listeners that don't know, when Gary came in for his back and we worked on mostly strengthening his back the first 6 months or so. And we turned a corner when I convinced him that like he wasn't going to hurt himself. And I think so many people need to know that early on. But now we're talking, we don't even really mention the back other than we obviously take care of not doing things that are going to bother it. But like this guy is fit. Like he's one of the top 5K runners in the age group of 55 to 59 in the whole area. I mean, I can't remember the last time you didn't leave a race with hardware, meaning he was first, second, or third. He's normally first. Occasionally somebody will beat him. He gets gold medals at the senior games, and when it's senior, it's over 50, so keep that in mind. In the bench press, in the basketball, in track and field, in the mile. I mean, I can keep going. He's bench pressed his weight plus after the age of 55. So, I mean, this guy's now fit. And since I've known you, you've always been at a good body weight. Like I've never seen you overweight. So
now we could actually, that would be a good.
Yeah, go for it.
The weight crept up on me. Despite all my walking and running, I'm 6 feet tall. I maxed out at 210 now, which is,
that's hard for me to imagine. I've never seen you look like that.
But then when I was about 40 years old, I said to myself, well, it crept up on me. When I was a kid, I was the type of kid who could eat, and teenager and college student who could eat anything that he wants as much as I want without gaining weight. And I ate a hell of a lot.
So how much did you weigh in college?
175.
So about like you are now.
I was a bottomless pit.
Right.
Yeah, right. Actually, yeah, high school and college, I was the same weight and height that I am now.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And then in my 20s, then when I was in my mid-20s, I got in the 180s. And then in my 30s, I got in the 190. It crept up on me slowly. Remember at my best friend's wedding, I was 32. And somehow we were about to go in the pool or something, and people commented that I was like, oh, really? I can't eat anything I want anymore? Oh,
so you felt like you had a little belly then? Is that why you didn't want to go in the pool? Or somebody said something to you?
Well, somebody said something to me before we went in the pool.
Do you think that motivated you?
Yes.
Okay.
At that point, I went from maybe 205 pounds to 190. Then I gained it back, and eventually I got to 210. And then when I was about 40 years old, I said, that's it, I'm done.
So what'd you do?
I counted carbs.
Okay.
And we talk about certain things being nature versus nurture.
Right.
Even when I was losing weight, I didn't have to cut. I could still eat a healthy meal.
Right.
Some people.
Yeah, you didn't have to crash diet.
Which is, those of you who need to eat 1,200 calories a day, my heart goes out to you.
Right. It sucks.
Oh, this is when I was in my 30s. If I just cut my carbs to 200 grams, under 200 grams a day.
Which still isn't really that low carb. I mean, that's still 800 calories of carbs.
So that was still, but I would lose weight on that. And then,
So is that what you did? Like that was your goalpost was 200 grams?
yes.
Okay.
I think a little less than that when I was losing weight, and then 200 grams to maintain.
Okay.
And then
so it's scientific.
It was
Like you measured. All right.
Actually, I see that's another. Once again, we go back to logical thinking and stretching and stuff like that. Okay, you stretch while you watch television, right? Is that any different than sitting down?
No,
And these,
you're right. You're right.
And this homework that you asked me to do, it doesn't really take that much time.
No, exactly. Like, what do you do for homework? And then you can get back to your grams of carbs. But just when you said that, so what is your homework?
It comes to 100. Let's see, 125 push-ups a week.
Right, 25 a day.
25 a day.
Okay,
not including the workout day.
Right.
Squats
in good form, right?
In good form,
right.
Yep. And then non-consecutive as well.
So you'll break them up.
Yeah, I can break them up. And squats, 125 a week. By the way, that sounds like a lot, but we're talking about an entire week.
Right.
Yeah, right?
And we're mostly working on that for form, right?
Yeah.
Because there's things I noticed. I said, okay, so keep practicing this.
And then 5, what are they called when I'm, my forearms are on the ground?
Oh, planks.
5 planks.
Yep.
A week. And
how long?
1 minute.
1 minute each. Okay.
And then a bunch of sit-ups. Those I could do a lot of those.
Right. You got a strong core
1,
for sure.
2, 4. Yeah, like that. You could do like 30 a day of those. That
right.
doesn't. And they're not all the way up sit-ups.
You do crunches. Yeah.
They're crunches.
Yep.
And then 50 cobras a day. And once
for your
again,
low back.
Yeah, you could rattle those off in 1 minute.
You can.
Oh, okay. All right.
And again, I'm just giving Gary credit here. Like, I wished everybody was as motivated as Gary. Like, as you hear him rattling that off, he's right, in my opinion. Like, I agree, it's not a lot to ask of somebody, but to get people to do maybe a quarter of what he's doing sometimes feels like it's pulling teeth. So again, that just gets back to a super highly motivated person. So why?
But I do want to add to that. That's the thing. You see, I was a math major in college.
Okay, that's important.
And I'm a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you put that all together. People don't always think a lot. It sounds like everything I said sounds like a lot, but you got to divide that by 7.
Right.
Or 5 at least. So
but it sounds like everything you've done to improve yourself gets broken down to numbers.
Yeah. Huh? Well, you see, even when I work out,
mm-hmm.
if you don't tell me how many to do, I'm like a ship without a sail.
Oh, I know.
And I know there are clients out there, from what I've heard from you and other physical trainers, they're in the minority, but they're there. They don't even want you to tell them how many to do.
That's right.
That, to me, that is...
That's like nails on a chalkboard to you.
That is nails on the chalkboard.
You will ask me at least 3 times on an exercise how many, right?
Yeah. I will. Yeah.
Like if you're not sure, you're going to ask me again.
Yes.
And every once in a while, just to mess with you, I'll give you a false number, right?
Yeah, and I'll pick up on it. I'll find some way to get
or you
back
didn't know,
again.
I just gave away my secret. Right? But no, yeah, you want to know. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I tell people all the time, it's like, what makes you better? Like, I agree with you. I'd rather know going in, right? Mm-hmm. Some people don't want to know. And I'm like, I don't know if that's why, but we go with it. If they don't want to know and it messes them up, then we don't tell them.
Well, here's the question.
Yeah.
If they don't want to know, are they giving themselves a quality workout? If the end result is the same as mine, more or less,
then it's all good.
Then it works. So this is an interesting question for you.
Right.
Do you find that some people do it that way and they do it effectively?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yep. If as long as, like you said, that they have reached the point what we call volitional fatigue, meaning that they can't do another repetition in good form. If they do better not knowing the number, then yes. And I think in the case that I'm referring to here, that is the case. But I think the majority of people do want to know like you do. So you're very numbers oriented, broken down. And I like that. I mean, I think that absolutely really, really works for you. So, getting back to those grams, right? So I think that's interesting because again, people like to pick up on tips. So, how long did you have to do that before you got to the weight that you're comfortable with? So how long did you keep it under 200 grams?
No, for good. So, okay, I'm going to be 58, 18
right.
years.
So your O is under 200 grams?
Well, I mean, there are times like if I'm on vacation or somebody comes over or for whatever reason, I'll have a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I'll do is I'll compensate for it.
Okay.
So if there are some days I might have 400 grams if I'm on vacation.
And what will you eat that jumps up those carbs so much? What is the food that you might pig out on, to say?
It could be depending on what's served to me.
Okay. Pizza?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, if I'm over somebody's house, I visited my sister and mother in Colorado recently. If they order a pizza, I'm going to eat the pizza.
Right. And that has a lot of everything.
And another thing is ginger ale or Sprite settles my stomach on the plane.
Mm-hmm. So Coca-Cola for me.
That's loaded with not only carbs, but for those of you who don't know, there's good carbs and bad carbs.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the worst carbs. That's pure sugar.
Pure sugar.
But it's great for settling my stomach. And I still, you know what I do? I have ginger ale in my office. And if I need my stomach settling, I'll drink maybe a quarter of it.
Right. But you're so disciplined. Like, so you saying that you know, because I'm like you. I mean, I try to do well for myself most of the time. I always tell people 80% well, 80% of the time, but I'm probably closer to 90. Like, I really like to count and watch things. But when I go on vacation, I'm going to splurge as well. But I'm disciplined enough to get back on the wagon the next day.
But let me point out, when I do go off the wagon, it's not really going off the wagon. Because,
you're not off the rails.
Because, if I do 400 grams one day, right, then that means I owe myself 200 grams.
Right.
Which means during the week,
you're going to...
just yesterday, I had only 150 grams.
Why?
Well, part of the reason is to make up for my 4th of July holiday.
What did you eat on the 4th that you're not telling me?
It was a 4th of... See, here's the thing. There are some diets that allow for one bad day.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a bad day, I compensate for it with a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So I still am paying back for the 4th of July holiday. You see what I mean?
I do.
And with carbs, it's not that hard either. With calories, it would be even harder.
So where do you count them? Do you have a food app that you do, or do you just know?
No, I've been doing it for the last 18 years.
So you just know what's in what?
I just know, or I look it up. All you got to do is look at the...
But somehow or another, you're tracking what you're eating that day, right?
Yes.
In your mind, I guess?
Yes.
So you got a very good memory.
I guess, or I guess you take, sometimes, once again, we take our...
Yeah, I don't think... listening to Gary here, I don't think he realizes how special he is. Like, in a good way. Like, a lot of people don't even remember what they ate for breakfast, let alone what they ate all day.
I guess I could do. Oh, let me add something for those of you listening who want to do a low-carb diet. I subtract fiber from the carbs, too.
Right.
So there's, like, for example, there's some Atkins bars where there's only like 2 net carbs.
Right.
They have their share of carbs, but they have so much fiber and also there's some vegan cookies.
I eat those, by the way.
Yeah, they're like 2 net carbs each.
I eat the vegan cookies from Publix. Is that where you get yours?
Yes, I do.
In the bakery?
Now I know why they keep running out. You keep getting my vegan cookies.
Absolutely. We get those things literally I buy 6 at a time because...
That's what I do. Yeah. Oh my, I'm just learning this.
Yeah, I didn't know you did that either. Me and Ellen grab those things. They are great.
And they're great for you.
Yes. They're high in fiber, like you said.
Yeah.
Right. And Gary, by the way, isn't advocating a no-carb diet. He's just keeping his carbs in moderation because 200 or 150 is still a decent amount of carbohydrates, because he knows that he needs those for his health and fitness and his running and his hard workouts. But, yeah, I'm learning some things, right? So now Publix is going to So Publix isn't even a sponsor of ours, but they're going to like go off the charts after people go in for these vegan cookies that we're talking about.
I hope so.
Because they are good.
Yes.
They are good.
That is so funny. Well, once again, not ha-ha funny, but hey, isn't that ironic?
Yeah, I didn't know you did that. I knew you did Atkins bars. I did not know that you did the vegan cookies. All right. So like we better segue into Gary's professional career and what he recommends. For those that come to the gym, and that's not everybody. I mean, we have people that listen to this even in Europe and everywhere else, so that's pretty cool. But like Gary is a physician, one of 3 or 4 that we refer to because he's excellent. We know he takes care of patients. We know that like he is an advocate of health and fitness. And for us to refer to any physician, like we want to know that. And there's a lot of good physicians out there. So, but we refer to the ones that are advocates of health and fitness. So like my last guest, Dr. B, Gary buys 5 or maybe even 20 books at a time of mine and gives them to his patients because he's an advocate of health and fitness. So talk a little bit about that in your professional practice.
Yes. I the patients are very thankful that I give them your book. Weight is a really important part of weight loss is an important part of my practice.
Mental health, would you say?
Mental health, yes. Well, for one, actually, even more than just it's good for everybody to be in shape.
Agreed.
A lot of those psychiatric medications cause weight gain.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of the psychiatric medications that we use nowadays are literally an increased risk for diabetes.
Wow.
So it's really important.
Type 2 diabetes?
Type 2 diabetes, yes.
Okay.
So it's really important for me to get people to lose weight.
Okay.
And it's interesting. You know, another thing I recommend is Weight Watchers.
Okay. Yeah, we have clients that use it.
The point system.
Mm-hmm.
And some people respond really well to it, and others. I've had discussions with some relatives about Weight Watchers, and I say, look, this way you're keeping track of everything you're eating, right. And you're, and at least if you're going off your diet, and some relatives and friends are for it, and others, I mean, I don't understand why people are against it. I think some people just don't want to.
I think like my knock on it, just again, overall I support it. I support anything that makes you keep track of things. Mm-hmm. My only knock is that like some people don't understand it well enough, and then once they start to deviate from it, because a lot of people aren't like you, and a lot of people aren't like me, where like we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater if we have a bad day, right? Some people do, I've noticed. So what I found is when it's too complicated, if they start to like get confused, they basically just say the hell with it. And that's been my only, gripe of it.
By the way, I think we're hitting on a really important point.
Mm-hmm.
This is about as important of a point as could be discussed here. Because what if you have a bad day?
Right.
It's
going to happen.
And what happens is, first of all, for those of you who have a bad day, whether it be with weight loss or something else, you can compensate if you can. So if you say 4th of July holiday, you ate too much, you could cut down a little this week. Or there are some people who have lost a lot of weight they'll give themselves one bad day a week or something.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of bodybuilders that I know, and I've done it before, where you have a cheat day. 6 days you're pretty good. One day out of the week you eat a meal you don't necessarily find healthy, but they do well with it. So there's different strategies.
And then if you go on vacation and you have 7 bad days,
right,
then maybe for the next few months you try to rough it out a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer like you in compensation. I totally agree. Like, it's kind of like, we can't look at falling off the wagon as a relapse. We have to look at it like it's just a non-perfect day. I don't even want to say a bad day. It's a non-perfect day. And if we understand that they're a part of life and we just simply get back on it, and you're really hitting home some points I put in my book all the time, which it's like you can compensate. Like if you just learn how to delay the gratification, let's say you really have a miserable day eating, you have a bad day at work and you just eat foods that you normally wouldn't eat. The next day you don't starve yourself, but you do say, you know what? I'm going to really make up for that by eating healthy today. I'm going to maybe skip those vegan cookies today that I normally have. Because I'll be honest with you, I have 6 vegan cookies a day.
By the way, oh my God. You know what?
I have 3 at lunch and 3 at dinner.
There are times I have more.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they're good for you.
They're good for you. And here's the issue. They can cause weight gain. They
Anything
have calories.
can, right?
Right. Lettuce, if you, figuratively speaking, if you eat nothing but lettuce, you'll gain weight. I don't recommend any of you do that.
By the way, did you know that a manatee eats 2,000 pounds of lettuce a day?
Oh, wow.
You know where I learned that?
Where?
SeaWorld.
Oh, wow. And that's why they're so overweight.
There you go. 2,000 pounds a day of lettuce. I don't know how they get all that, but apparently they do. But that's all they eat. Because they're plant-based manatees just eat seaweeds and lettucey types foods. But I guess they eat all the time, which I didn't know. Their mouths are always open. So
that's why we all love them. They're kind of like Brontosaurus.
Right. They're sweet and lovable.
And they just eat. They don't bother any living thing except for lettuce.
Well, Gare, we got to start to wind down. But you know what? This has been like one of the best interviews I've had. And I want to have Gary back for part 2 because I think we barely got into his professional practice with that. But, maybe we do this either next week or again, but we're going to do a part 2. So everybody consider this part 1 of the interview of Dr. Gary Frick. And before we close out, what's your final piece of wisdom for everybody out there, Big Gare?
I want to say losing weight is different from substance abuse. There are similarities.
Okay. Great point.
But I know AA, if you have one bad day, then you lose your chip.
Right.
You could be sober for 10 years. If you have one bad day, you lose your chip, which is kind of a reservation I have. I'm not sure if that's the best way to do things.
Okay.
But eating, you have to eat in order to live.
Right. It's very different. Yeah.
And when people come from out of town and visit you, what's the first thing that you say? Hey, let's take them out to eat. Mm-hmm. Eating is a fact of life, and you have to allow yourself for bad days. And whether you compensate or not, if you're gonna get on yourself for bad days and just give up on your diet, then the diet's not going to work. You got to you got to stick with it. And I knew somebody who ran a Overeaters Anonymous group.
Right.
And he also ran an AA group.
Okay.
And he said the Overeaters Anonymous group was far more difficult.
I've heard that from people who have done both programs.
People would argue with them.
Yes.
and all that. And he said one of the hardest things about it is people still have to eat to survive. And it's
right. They don't have to drink to survive.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. And you know what, man? That's a phenomenal point that I didn't even see coming. So that's what's so interesting when you have guests that bring things to the table, no pun intended, that you didn't see coming. So we will wrap this up here. And again, we will do a part 2.
All right.
Man, that was one of the most fun interviews I have done for many ways, for many reasons, I should say. So hope you enjoy it. Gary gave a ton of tips for people to get. So speaking of tips, my tip is if you're looking to buy a home or sell yours, please give Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group at Realty Pros your business. They flat out are the best. Jonathan was here this morning talking about all his successes in real estate. Guy that absolutely cares about his profession, and he can be reached at thegildengroup.com. And please also check out Daytona Beach's own overhead door company. Jeff and Zach Hawk are the absolute best in the business. It's a family-run business, so you're going to get the best customer service. It's not like you go to some of these other, I won't name these places, but they're owned by, big corporations, and you go in there and they don't answer any questions that you might have. That's not the case with Overhead Door. They actually will text you back, which is great. And they can be reached at overheaddordaytona.com.